The challenges in setting up a new market are enormous. Number one, you have to look and be sure that there's a structural change that has occurred that redefines risk and identifies that risk has to be transferred. I think my academic exposure was critical for me in helping me to develop new markets. I learned theory and studied that, and then took that theory and wondered how I could apply it. I studied not only economic theory and econometrics, etc., but I also did a lot of work in graduate school on the economics of inventive activity. And so through the study of industrial innovation, I learned a lot about the challenges that inventors face, how they overcome them, life cycles of new products, the ability to withstand enormous criticism that inventors sometimes face. So the theory and the study of practical inventive were, for me, an ideal marriage. Professor Coase always used to tell me when I had a failure, there's a lot to be learned. Don't treat it as a failure, just treat it as a clinical trial and learn something from it. What were the difficulties? I went around the country, was told it was a bad idea, interest rates weren't volatile, and go back to Chicago because this is not a viable idea. And I did go back to Chicago. I tried to grade them. I took a portfolio of mortgages, went and did regressions to see if we could homogenize them, because the first thing you need to do is make the commodity homogeneous. The next big change was there was no enabling regulation for financial futures under current legislation. And so there was only the SEC, which regulated securities, but not government-exempt securities. And we had to find, and there was no commodity futures trading commission. So we had to go and work on an act of Congress that would redefine a commodity, and the commodity could be tangible or intangible. So the challenges were, in summary, legislative challenges to be enabled, regulatory changes once the legislation was passed, the design of the institution or exchange itself to facilitate liquidity, and the design of the specific contract. So those were the four basic challenges. You've got to educate academics so they understand the economic role. You've got to educate students, because by the time the product is mature, they're going to be the ones using it. You've got to educate the accountants. What's the accounting treatment of a hedge? And then you've got to educate the lawyers about futures exchanges and clearing. So you've got what we call 9 steps to go through, and they are, education being critical to not only the users, but all of the infrastructure people, including the technology people who are going to operate and have back offices. So Professor Coase, who was a mentor of mine, said always tell the story, because economists in most basic classes say, let's assume there's a market for widget. In my experience, that assumption buries 10 years of hard work. And while it's good as a teaching tool, it doesn't inform people about how difficult it is. As a result of the work that we did, we informed California, which now has a cap and trade system. We started that market and it still exists. The Northeast has one called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which still exists. Renewable energy is traded. And so in North America alone, the open interest, which is a measure of the breadth of the market, essentially is 500,000 contracts. And what that means is it's almost approaching gold. Sometimes there are people who make money and have a vested interest in never changing something, and a new technology forces them to change. So capital markets, post-trade, pre-trade, instantaneous settlement. There are already efforts to trade energy on the blockchain. There's efforts to look at a variety of different applications, medicine, how about our medical records, custodial activities and equities. They could be private or public. Everybody focuses on the cryptocurrencies, which is the tip of the iceberg. The underlying technology has vast, vast implications. And my clarion call to the audience at this seminar is look to the blockchain. It will be a revolution like electronic trading and like the web. And the currencies may play a big not role, but no matter what happens with cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the underlying technology is a game changer.